Hello and welcome to Screen Views. I'm Dave.
I'm James.
And this is the weekly podcast where we give our views each week on a film and TV show. Our podcast is based on the idea that there's no such thing as a bad movie. Therefore, each week we'll give a recommendation rather than a rating.
But first up, we'll have a quick discussion about what we talked about last week and see if our opinions have changed.
Here we are, James. Episode 3.
Yep.
It's like the third movie that nobody ever wanted, but it's here anyway.
Yeah, although some third movies are awesome. Like Star Wars, Mad Max, right? Hunt for the Thunderdome? That wasn't that bad. I love Mad Max, the third one.
I've not actually seen the third one.
Damn.
Sorry, James.
Tina Turner.
Maybe I need to get there. Okay, shall we...
Talk about last week.
Yeah, let's talk about last week. So... we're looking at Tomb Raider first. Yep. Have your thoughts changed or any reflections, James?
No, quite often I might want to see a film twice. If I got enough entertainment out of it, I'll think, oh, you know what, I've got free time, I'll go see it twice. Haven't bothered to see it twice. So I think that
says a lot. Yeah. I stand by what I said about it being written by somebody who doesn't speak English. But having said that, I have been informed that parents do talk to their kids in third person. So, Daddy loves you. Maybe that's okay.
James never thought people talk to each other in the third person. But hey,
well, there we go. Maybe it's the new thing. But yeah, so I really haven't changed anything about Tomb Raider.
Yeah, although I have seen a couple of films this week that have used language in a different way. And so the thing which annoyed me last week about cinema, and when I said it always happens when someone says, as soon as someone says oh, can you speak English? And the rest of the movie is English. This week was kind of a refreshing thing in terms of cinema. So I'm kind of, my faith in Hollywood is restored.
Yeah.
Well, faith in not Hollywood, but movies is restored.
What films were they?
Isle of Dogs, which
yes, chose
when to interpret and when not to interpret. So there's full conversations and there's also another movie, but we're probably going to be discussing that at a later time, so I don't want to say anything.
Okay.
So I'm going to keep it quiet for now.
Yeah. Subtle clue there, James. Yeah. Okay, what about... well, I suppose you haven't seen The Punisher since last week.
No, but I believe you finished the series. So.
Yes, I've finished the series now, yeah. Well, the last few episodes were intense. Yeah. And I know you were asking about the violence, and it got very Game of Thrones, and I was like, oh, okay. I know that a lot of the violence had been there throughout the series, but it really ramped up in the last sort of 3 episodes or so.
Really compact.
And brutal. So, yeah, it kind of made me think a little bit differently about the whole violence aspect of the show. I know you were asking about the gun sort of aspects, and I sort of still think that the story is about Frank Castle rather than gun crime.
Yeah.
But I thoroughly enjoyed it, and yeah, I think it was a good end to the series. Not quite sure about the very last episode, going back over old ground, literally.
Yeah.
But apart from that, yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, so like I said, my worry when going into the series is rehashing the same old story. I thought they interestingly rebooted the same old story, but yeah, going back to the same sort of the exact same ground is sort of a bit tedious. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the second season, and I believe I'll enjoy the second season more than the first season, because I believe we can just get on with a whole new fresh foot now that the whole audience now know about Frank Castle, and we don't need a storyline to sort of symbolise his origin story yet again.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, they'll move on from that. Although Jessica Jones have just started that, and they're kind of doing exactly what you've said that you don't want Punisher to do in the second season, so... So we'll see.
Well,
I guess
interesting one to discuss. So when you've seen either all of it or most of the series, we'll bring that up as a
yeah. But we needed to sort of mix it up a little bit, I think. So we're going to look at an Amazon show today called I Love Dick.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk about that in a bit. But I think we need to talk about the film portion, which is Ready Player One, not Real Player One.
No. But it was. We did watch it for real, so.
So Ready Player One, for those who don't know, is directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yep.
And it's basically about a otherworld computer game, and the story starts off following a main character who is trying to complete a quest by the creator of the otherworld, who has offered his inheritance to whoever can complete his game, his personal game. So obviously Spielberg has a long history.
Yep.
And is, I don't know, can we call him the godfather of cinema? Is that too far? Is that going too far, James?
I think a lot of us grew up on him. And that sounds a bit weird.
Well, it's our generation, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's sort of an icon of the 80s and 90s, certainly.
We'll look at like kids' films which inspire us, and kids' films which we could rewatch over and over again. And still, Spielberg is like a good chunk of them films.
Definitely.
And so, especially when it comes to live action, because we've all got our cartoons we enjoy as kids, but our live action is definitely Spielberg. Spielberg is probably connected to most of the films we like, whether it's directing or producing or part of the process. So I think the industry just looked to him quite a lot in terms of like that sort of kid live action adventure movies. So it was really interesting to see that he's back. I can't really remember the last big Spielberg movie.
Tintin?
Yeah, Tintin.
Was that big? Oh, he did BFG as well.
Yeah.
So he's done quite a few kid sort of based stories, I guess, in the last few years.
Although I suppose like with Tintin and BFG, you got the BFG that's so the name is so connected to Roald Dahl, and Tintin is so connected to that old TV show. I think this is something which doesn't have a visual sort of like predecessor. And it is based on a book that I can't think of any visual sort of like.
Well, I suppose the whole
story,
visual premise is computer games, isn't it?
Yeah,
which we can talk about.
Yeah, very relevant now.
But it's interesting because I think this movie is perhaps not necessarily a Spielberg movie, a bit like maybe BFG and Tintin were or are.
I think. This just got me a little bit excited because we don't discuss movies straight after the movie, and so I hold my thoughts and David holds his thoughts. So I've got no idea about his view of the movie, but from that little snippet, I think we might be on the same wavelength.
Maybe. Yeah. But I have a feeling that I don't know why, but I have a feeling that you perhaps weren't as into this movie as I was.
Ooh, okay.
So where do you want to start, James?
Let's just start with the story and see.
Your narrative's always a good place to start, I think.
Yeah, I think on paper, ironically, it was a book. On paper, I think this is a really interesting story, and actually showing how unconfident we are. There's so many interesting things within the story that on paper I believe it tries to do quite a lot of interesting things in terms of like how we live our lives and how we represent ourselves out in the real world, how we represent ourselves online.
Yeah,
it's basically like the Oracle is sort of like online. The sort of like the way I see it is sort of like social media gaming all in one. And
I think it's very current, isn't it?
Yeah. Power and control, and because people see themselves
money as well, economy, how like the digital economy is coming in rather than a physical economy.
Just a merger of money and game credits. It's sort of like because the start of the movie sort of suggests they're all one thing. It's all one thing, and so people invest their whole lives in these games, and so if you lose in the games, you lose in life. So that was a really interesting concept.
But it was also interesting that it was almost that if you lose in the game, that was worse than losing in real life as well. Yeah. Like there's been this transition within society that you move into that world, and that world had almost become more important than the real world.
So on paper, I think this is a really. If someone gave me the script to this thing, I think it's really good. I don't think.
I think there's a big butt coming.
It's. I don't think it was executed very well whatsoever.
Ooh, okay.
Are you happy for me to go into?
Yeah, why don't you start, and I'll try and counter with some positives, maybe.
So I just didn't. This film is all about stakes, not the food, in terms of life stakes, and I like tension, and I like losing stuff, and it's also risky. But I in the first act of the movie. So this is a review, so we're gonna talk about spoilers here.
Yeah. We should probably warn our viewers that we do include spoilers in each review section. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, now's a good time to skip ahead.
Yeah, but come back.
Yes,
watch the movie. Come back. So we So the first act of the movie, they described how like if you lose in the game, and sometimes people get so depressed they try and kill themselves, and like that's how bad it is. If you lose in the game, you lose everything. And then also, but it made it to like sort of a funny sort of thing. Like a guy tried to jump out the window, someone saved him, and to be honest, it wasn't really taken seriously. And then also in real life, at the start of the game, at the start of the movie, or near the start of the movie, someone close to the main character dies as well. I just feel like there was no sort of like remorse, there was no sort of grievancy on either side. I didn't really care. I was watching the whole movie. I started not to. I didn't really care about if people died in the game because I didn't really feel like all the characters we knew didn't really have anything to lose anyway. So I didn't really feel like losing. They could just respawn. I didn't really feel like there was any.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, because I don't think that was perhaps explained as well as it could have been to the audience, because I think they maybe needed to introduce some sort of idea of levels, maybe, that you had to work within the game to get up to a certain level to, unlock the planet or a world that they were having a big battle in or something like that. And maybe that would have helped the sort of audience understand what the stakes were a bit more. Yeah. Because that sort of definitely came at the end, because it made the whole extra life part more significant, because essentially everybody had disappeared, and without that extra life, one of the main characters would have been stripped of all their sort of possessions as well, but there was no explanation as to why they couldn't just restart and go to that world and then just run in and carry on. And I think it was perhaps not clear for the viewer.
Well, the villain died. He got someone put a grenade inside his machine and died, and then he just respawned later on. And very quickly just respawned.
Yeah, but I think the whole idea with that was that he could cheat, couldn't he? Because he was the boss and he had loads of money in the physical world and the alternative world. He had the ultimate power, because if he lost, it didn't really matter. He could just come back, like you say. Yeah. And so I think that is what that was implying there.
Yeah. I think the whole third act was really based on you worrying about, is the avatar going to die, and is the real person going to die? And I just felt like I just didn't really care about either. And
okay.
And yeah, because when someone died, there's just no remorse whatsoever in terms of his auntie died. She got blown up, and there's no remorse. And I believe this was a world without police. Without because there are no references to police, there are no references to an authority.
Although they do turn up at the end,
right at the end. And I'm thinking, okay, basically you've just got me soaked into a whole movie. You've told me the narrative, everything apart from the movie, apart from authorities. And so, if there are authorities, surely you can go to them if there's you're not showing any corruption in authority. You're not showing any. I don't understand the ending was laughable for me, and I just couldn't really. I'm used to Spielberg endings, and like the main character's happy, music has started playing, you're uplifted, and it's a really uplifting sort of end. And I felt like, I know I'm banging on about like Risk of Life quite a lot. I know there are other things that annoyed me in the movie, but that's one of the main things. In terms of another thing that annoyed me is the whole setup of like, oh, you don't know who you're talking to, and you don't know who you're talking to, and you don't know what they're going to look like, and you don't know if they're going to be what you expect or what you don't expect. Yeah, and it's a bit like, and she said, oh, you will like me in the real world. You will like me in the real world, and I thought like, oh, it's interesting. Like, what is she going to look like in the real world, and will he actually get on, and is there going to be an issue in terms of like, because like a lot of people hide behind filters on Snapchat, hide behind sort of avatars, and it's a real today world issue. And so really, really interesting if we see someone with like possibly a deformity, possibly missing a limb, or possibly something which they would say there's something like physically wrong with them, and they can't interact in the world properly, and so they feel more comfortable in the avatar world than they do in the real world.
Well, change themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose that's what. So that's for me. That's what was interesting was that. I suppose the setup was that it was going to be, there's potential that the main female character was going to be different, and there was sort of a small aspect of that. But I suppose the setup was made by H, and then the big reveal is that
H is the person, which is completely different.
Yeah, so I think they sort of dealt with that in a way that was enjoyable.
I just felt like the whole like having just a little bit of discoloration behind the eye, like one of the eyes.
Well, it was a birthmark.
It's a birthmark. I don't know. I just felt like they could have done more to show like actually what I like underneath is a lot more. I didn't feel like it was the build up of her saying, "Oh, you would like me," like, "Oh my God, I'm like really ashamed of this." A lot of people have bigger things that they're insecure about, like in our society. A lot of people. I felt they could have made a more of an message.
Yeah, but I thought
they had an opportunity.
I guess I don't know. I suppose the connection there for me is that something as small as a birthmark on your face in a modern society where everything is about how you look, both in the real world and online. Obviously this world presents an ability to change yourself, but you can't necessarily change the world. But when you live within a society where everything is about looks, that for me was a statement about that pressure to look good, I guess, maybe.
I suppose if her avatar was like someone with like a perfect complexion, but her avatar was like this sort of reddish, lumpy mess. Her avatar was like this weird creature thing.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'd get like, okay, well, in this world I'm going to look like this because I can't look like this in the normal world.
Yeah. Which was done to the extreme with H.
Yeah.
Who the actress or actor, I should say, probably, because it's just actor now, isn't it?
I think it's just actor now. Yeah,
I had this thing come up because it is really confusing because there was a switch to just gender neutral actor.
Yeah,
and then but they still do best supporting actress or best actress at the Oscars. So is that just the Oscars not accepting gender?
Yeah, I don't know. I think when it comes to the Oscars, the many categories as possible is sort of like. I suppose they could do the best male actor, the best female actor.
Yeah, but why not? I suppose the argument is why not just do best actor? I know you can divvy up the awards a bit more, but
well, one thing that going a bit of a tangent here, like Ronda Rousey, the wrestler. One thing she likes about wrestling is that the title isn't not male or female. She likes it because the title is just all inclusive sort of wrestler, and so I think. Yeah, we're getting there slowly but surely. Like each year, I feel like we chip away at the PC policy, and we're changing it up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we can talk a lot more about that when we cover I Love Dick in a bit.
Yeah.
So maybe let's stay on track with Ready Player One. So, I mean, I think, so in terms of narrative, from my sort of limited research that I've done, Ernest Cline, who wrote the book and helped out with the screenplay, it seems like he is someone who is really into pop culture, obviously, which is great.
Yeah.
But what I think, again, like I say, based on my limited research, what I think is happened with this Ready Player One was that he, the book is about games a lot more than perhaps came across in the movie. And I know that sort of almost sounds ridiculous to say, because the whole movie is about a computer game. But what I think didn't shine through perhaps enough was this idea of video game history being told through a story.
Yeah.
So I think it looks like he's put a lot of his personal, the Halliday character is almost like him, but obviously not. But there's, it seems like in the book you would get this whole stream of sort of references to both music, film, and computer games. And in some ways that's what makes me want to go and read the books, just to sort of see that comparison. But I think what was great for me as a viewer is that by having so much in there in terms of cultural references, it made the movie become quite personal in a way, because the references that you pick up on are not necessarily going to be the same references that somebody else picks up on. So through that, you're sort of living this vicariously, I guess, through the film, because you see these things crop up. And I think there was definitely stuff that I was picking up on, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a reference to that, and that's amazing. So like I'm as a kid, I watched Kroll loads of times. I don't know why, but I loved that movie. I loved Kroll. And so when a reference cropped up in Ready Player One, the movie, to Kroll, I was like, oh my God, that's Kroll. But like somebody who hasn't seen Kroll is just going to think, oh, that's just a ninja star. So, it's like, so I think that's what I love about this movie, is the fact that I could watch that movie with you, somebody else, and we could get the different references throughout the whole movie and still really, really enjoy it at the end, because there's so many in there. And that way, the narrative then becomes sort of almost personal to you, because you're looking at the things that you like. But what I perhaps would have liked a bit more on would have been a bit more on video game history, because I'm not. I don't know the history of video games and how they've developed, and how designers are really, really important to computer games. I mean, obviously we know that, but some people will have learnt that through this movie. But I think if you go to watch this movie thinking you're going to get a complete video game history, is not there. No. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but you're just not going to get that. What you are going to get, I think, is a personal experience. If you know a lot of pop culture from the 80s and 90s. And I suppose this is why we should probably mention that Ready Player One is a 12A, and that, we spoke last week about Tomb Raider and this kind of bridging the gap between a young and older audience. Yeah. And so I think this movie, for me, is definitely at the higher end of the 12A. But having said that, what it did for me, what Tomb Raider didn't do, which is I went into that movie and I appreciated it as an adult because of the cultural references in there. And I'm watching it and I'm thinking, yeah, I could take a 10-year-old to see this film and they would just enjoy it as a film and as a story. Yeah. And so it's hitting those multiple layers that Tomb Raider perhaps didn't.
in terms of like the 12A thing, I felt like so like let down by like not really feeling the emotions of like of loss of like the real life and Avatar life. And I felt like there's so many swear words in this film that just wasn't needed. I felt like you could just take them out, and you could add like a little bit more bruising, a little bit more, I don't know, more emotional sort of weight on other areas. I felt like it was boosted up to. I felt like you could have just taken out swear words, and this would probably make a PG film.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because
I
can't think of anything else that'll make it.
I think it's just, I think producers love the 12A category because it gives the option to
It's sort of like, it can
appeal.
be an adult film, it can be a kid's film.
Yeah, and it gives you can put a little bit more adult references in here and there.
I was also like, in terms of the references, I was sort of like picking back. Like every single scene that I enjoyed, I also enjoyed because of a reference. And I sort of like, and I kept on being annoyed because I don't know if I left the film thinking, did I enjoy the amount of references, or did I enjoy the film?
Yeah,
and so
I mean, for me it was both, so it's it's a win-win.
I'm not sure if I enjoyed the film, but I really enjoyed the references. So I'm glad I have a cinema card, so I can just go to as many movies as I want. But if I was paying like £13 for this film, I don't think it would have been a waste of money. I really don't.
Yeah.
I think I would have enjoyed it, but a bit like Tomb Raider in a way that I could see how it could have been so much better.
Right. I thought this is how it was going to go. I got the feeling that you went into it, and I was like, for me, a good tell is that the minute those credits came, I wanted to watch that film again.
Wow.
And like I got that feeling when I watched Star Wars: Force Awakens, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best film I'm going to see this year in any way, shape, or measure.
No.
But for me, what that means is that the film was fun and it entertained, and I want to go back and I want to see bits again. So for me, that like I say, that is really an instant, very subjective reaction to a film, and it's a feeling, and I got that feeling, and so for me that kind of sums up where I'm at with this film, is that I want to see it again. I'm excited to see it again. Will I go and see it again? Not sure, but it's that feeling that gives me a positive message.
I personally know 3 other people who said the exact same thing.
Oh, really?
And what the buzz I've heard about it on the internet is that people are loving it. Bilbo's back, and it's amazing, and it's and it's a shame because I want to like it. I don't want to not like this film. But I saw 2 other films this week which made me think, wow, I want to see that again, and I'm going to see it again. But I'm not going to do that with Ready Player One. I don't think, like I say, I got all the. I was entertained by the references. I thought the story. I just didn't really care about the character at the end, and when they kept on like dragging the ending, and basically he nearly gets shot, and then there's just a pause, and like I do like when directors pause and let actors just tell a story for the face and just show their emotions for the face. But I just don't think the sort of like the emotions of this I just felt like every single character was a bit shallow, and the baddie in this,
Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah, got the name.
Was it Sorrento? Did you say
Sorrento? I think that's his avatar name.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's his name. But it's his name and avatar name.
Yeah. But Ben Mendelsohn is the guy who plays him, who I think is a really good actor.
Oh, such a good actor.
Yeah, because he's amazing in Bloodline. Have you seen that?
Not seen Bloodline.
Obviously, he's in Star Wars Rogue One.
Well, Star Wars Rogue One, he's somebody who wants power, but can't seem to grasp it entirely. And he doesn't have that many scenes, but I felt like his character was sort of kind of parallel to his character in Ready Player One in terms of like the desperation, but I felt it in Rogue One. I just didn't feel it in this movie. And it's sort of like, and so when he's at the end and he nearly shoots the guy, and then he looks at the light shining from his eyes, and he just decides not to and hesitates. didn't care. And then
I do think that moment that you're referring to was a little bit strange. But then I think again, this is what the I don't know if it's the computer game aspect coming in, and that it was like, well, the game was over, so you just stop when the game's game over. You just stop, and then you start all over again, or you go your separate ways. And so I don't know whether that was maybe a commentary that they were trying to say about that moment, and that's what I did really like about this movie as well, was that the inclusivity throughout. How so with the key thing, it wasn't that one person gets a key and then nobody else can get a key and that's it. Yeah. It was that everybody else could get a key if they worked it out, and that's where the leaderboard thing comes in. And so I think that for me worked really well in terms of explaining what computer games are about and how they're about inclusivity and about interaction with your friends, and they're not this big bad scary world that parents maybe think is out there, and that they are culturally significant because they're, they have this ethos of, there's no discrimination within computer games. Anyone can play, anyone can join. It's not an exclusive world. And again, the message throughout the film, which is about how business people try to manipulate that or control that, or make it exclusive, like elite and that sort of thing. And that's why there's quite a key scene where Sorrento's talking to the creator. What was he called again? I said it earlier, and I've forgotten his name. It's my worst fear of podcasting, James. It's happening.
I'm not sure, but
so the creator of the game and the world, the Oasis,
getting coffee or something.
So Sorrento's working for him.
Yeah.
Halliday, that's it. Yeah. So Halliday, and there's that little scene between where Sorrento's saying, "Oh, we should have platinum memberships and all this thing," and Halliday just ignores him because. And I think that is, again, that's crucial to this idea that for Halliday, that this is what the computer games are not about, which is it's a commentary about where computer games are maybe going at the moment. But I think that was an interesting angle to the movie that fed throughout the whole film.
Yeah, I thought I thought everything it attempts to do, I think is great. Like on paper, I thought that was great. And in terms of the creator, Halliday, I thought it was really interesting seeing this person who is typically vulnerable, typically like not a winner, but be so inspirational to so many people, to this whole world. But sorry, I thought the music was brilliant and awful at the same time. I thought it was brilliant because it had so many references to like little hints to the different soundtracks of old Spielberg classics, and I felt like this movie feels like a homage to Spielberg more than it does to a homage to games.
Well, yeah, and I think that's where the mistake goes in. And it's interesting you say that, actually, because, again, in my very limited research, I think I read that Spielberg wanted to not have references to his own movies in the film.
Oh, wow.
And it was more the crew, cast and crew, that kept pushing stuff in there. So I think, that he obviously couldn't argue the Jurassic Park thing away.
No.
And a few other bits.
My thing is like just the references to Back to the Future. I don't mind the car. I mean.
That was one that he kept in, because I imagine that's a big part of the book, I guess.
In terms of like every time like it goes mystical, you got that sort of like the three sort of notes of Back to the Future, like ding ding ding. They don't do it. They don't go into the whole song, but every now and again you got these spurts of these like 3 tones of Back to the Future throughout it. And I think Back to the Future is an amazing soundtrack, and it really, when you start to discover new stuff and you start to hear the music playing it, I think it's one of the beautiful things about Back to the Future. And I just felt like this film sort of piggybacked on how I explore that series. And it's sort of thinking, well, we'll use the same thing. We'll just do it in this one. And I felt like, I just wish it was just new. I felt like this was a new Spielberg film. I feel like this was sort of like a Frankenstein sort of mashup.
Yeah, I get that. I think that's, I think that's part of what Ernest Cline is about in terms of, because I think he was a part of a documentary called Raiders. The story of the greatest fan film ever made, which is a documentary. I think it's on Netflix. That I've been meaning to watch it for ages, but I didn't know the two were connected. He also did a film called Fanboys, which is about a group of guys going to see the opening of Phantom Menace at Skywalker Ranch. And I think the premise is one of them is dying, and they're trying to get there before that happens. So I think obviously with this writer, his, you can tell he's a fan, and it obviously comes from a good place. And I can totally understand that what you're sort of saying in terms of this like kind of postmodern mismatch of like, well, okay, is it do a younger audience go into Ready Player One, and do they watch this film and think, oh, I want to go off and explore Spielberg, and I want to explore movies, and I want to learn about computer game history? Chances are probably not, and that's an unfortunate part. I mean, I'm making a huge assumption there, but I think that's what you're sort of closing in on is the fact that there's the references are maybe too in your face at places, and maybe too explained, but also, I think, do a younger audience just watch that and go, well, I'd rather just watch Ready Player One, and I'm not going to go back and watch all of these classic movies into modern classics, I should probably say, and that if they do that is a real shame, because I think, like I say, this story comes out of childhood. It comes out of formative years of these things, and this kind of consumption of pop culture being put back in to something in a very loving way, and so I think, for me, I can see why people would use the Frankenstein phrase, or a postmodern crazy mashup. But I think the starting point is homage, and it's not pastiche, and it's necessarily, and it's not parody.
No.
And I think that's an important distinction to make, is that it's coming from a place of utter sort of love, I guess, for these things, and for me that's that's why the Kroll moment for me is, or things that crop up, and you're like, oh my god, like somebody else loves that movie as much as I do, even though it's never going to go down in history as like an Oscar-winning film that people talk about, but it's it's special to me. And the Monty Python reference, the holy hand grenade, and and just the little things in there that just, for me, that I think that's what I could forgive not caring about characters, all of those things, because there for me there was a very distinct connection between myself, my experiences as growing up, and the narrative and the writer, and those it's almost like the idea of loving something so much that it hurts, and like I think that's comes up in a film. Oh God, again, podcast fears, forgetting names of stuff. But it's a famous quote from a character, and I'll maybe look it up for next week or something. But
come back next week.
yeah. So I think that's where I'm at with it, is that I just like it. It came, the creation came from a point of love. I, have a love for those things as well. So for me, there's a connection there. But somebody coming into this, a new generation of people accessing pop culture through this film, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know.
I just felt like I don't know. I guess one thing that really let me down in the movie was that I love John Hughes. And so, on paper, to do a whole scene about to talk about John Hughes and John Hughes movies and references, I thought that I would do great on paper, but the execution was a bit like, what are these guys talking about? Why are these guys just having a conversation about like John Hughes when you haven't really mentioned him before this conversation?
Yeah,
it just felt like, oh, here's for people who like John Hughes. Here's this one's for people who like this. It's just like a conveyor belt of like, oh, guys, if you didn't like that,
yeah, you should know about this. Yeah, well, I mean, I think maybe that's why I want to read the book, because I want to see, like, okay, how have they done it differently? But yeah, I think the move away from the computer game history was a shame, and I know some of it was in there with the whole Easter egg thing, adventure, and there was bits in there, but apparently, like, I think, again, spoilers for people who haven't read the book. It's not really that much of a spoiler, really, but Percival, the main character in the book, actually is, from what I saw, he unlocks the first challenge by doing something else that's related to computer game history.
Okay.
And in the film, it was just like, oh, this portal popped up, and we jumped through it, and it was a car race. And so I think there was a lot of stuff in the movie that they just skipped over that's maybe in a bit more detail in the book.
When it comes to revealing stuff and working stuff out, I get really annoying when the audience hasn't had an opportunity to work it out.
Oh yeah, we discussed this about Tomb Raider last week. Yeah,
and it just, with this movie, it's sort of like this kept on. They had all these like flashbacks and references like to the creator. However, when it comes to actually working out the clue, it's sort of like the first time our main character sees that the main character works it out. And I don't like the idea of like not being.
I don't know about that, because the first reveal, you get. Yeah, I was just trying not to spoil it, but
oh, sorry.
But I don't know. I thought what was different was that Halliday gives the clue. As an audience, you know that he has to do something around that, but you don't know that the whole thing is going to be that reversing. So for me, I was like, oh, okay, is he going to have to, do a jump backwards or but I didn't. In my head, I wasn't. But at least the hint was there, and then in my head, I'd worked out, okay, he needs to do something in reverse.
Yeah.
And then you see how he does it. And so for me, that was, there was enough of a hint there for me to work it out before it. But
instead of being so grumpy about this film, one scene that I did love was The Shining, and how went to the location and you sort of like, if you've seen The Shining, you know not to follow the twins. And it's
it's good. And it's. I mean, I think the Shining scene is being held up as one of the best sequences in the film.
Yeah. For me, hands down, I've got no negatives about that sequence. I just fully enjoyed it, and I just felt like, cool, I really enjoyed this.
Again, if you've not seen The Shining and you don't want spoilers in Ready Player One, you're going to get some spoilers there.
Yeah. In fact, you're going to get. It's impossible to see. Of seeing all the stuff it references, it's probably impossible to see, and not work out. It's like, I didn't really realize an Easter egg in the John Hughes universe. I didn't realize it was like one of the locations is the same in the two of the movies. I didn't realize it until I saw this movie and they said it.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
And that was kind of cool, but it wasn't enough for me to enjoy that scene.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of cinematography, actually, I thought this is an interesting film because it's sort of, it maybe marks a transition of being able to watch a live action film, which is a mix bag of the two worlds. So I guess there must be some films that have done this before, but it was like obviously the Final Fantasy films are a whole, all animated, or you get Tintin and it's all motion capture, and I suppose Lord of the Rings mixes things, but I suppose what this film gave an opportunity was to watch characters in digital form and then live action form, and it not be weird or jarring or annoying.
Yeah. So to go back to the Shining scene, but it does have reference because like most of the movie they're in like a digital environment, and all of a sudden when you're in the Shining sort of the area, it feels real. It feels like, and in fact, part of me thinks like, is that a set? And did they? Is that a set? And did they film it in a set? And have you just imposed the digital creations on top of it?
Yeah.
It's like looking back. If I look back now, I may think, oh no, obviously it's all digital, but I was fooled in that scene.
It was really well done.
And that was a scene where it blended reality and this Oracle world together. I thought that's really good.
I suppose I think what I also really liked about this film is that it's got multiple viewing opportunities because there's so much in there that you don't pick up on. So obviously you get the personal things with the first viewing, but I think what I'll be interested to do is go and read about what else is in there, and then go back and think, all right, okay, yeah, I understand that more. There's a bit more layers to it. I mean, there was quite a few easy references in there.
Yeah.
So there's like easy references where, oh, okay, a famous person pops up in a nightclub, or you spot the Joker somewhere, or the narrator explains to you that you can climb Everest with Batman. There's some quite obvious ones in there, but there's other ones where I think it's a bit more subtle. Are the more interesting ones. So the sequence where Sorrento meets IROC, the T.J. Miller character from Silicon Valley. Yeah. Who I think is awesome in Silicon Valley as well, and he's quite funny in this movie. He's sort of the false hero, comedy bad guy. Yeah. With the skull for a chest. Yeah. They meet on in this world where he's killed another character that we don't ever see, and they're having a chat in this world, but the world is like a reference to something like really famous, and I didn't know the reference, and I've forgotten the reference now. So I need, for me, I want to go back in and I want to go, all right, okay, I want to be more versed in and those are the better ones for me. Obviously, the Shining one was really fun, and that was, that is being talked about as the best scene in the movie, and it probably is, to be fair. But the less obvious ones for me are the more interesting.
Yeah. I think all in all, if connect with the characters more, I'll definitely re-go see it. I'll redo it over and over again. But I think my separation from the characters and like my separation from the core of the movie is sort of stopping me from really enjoying it again. When it comes to Netflix, I'll probably rewatch it over and over again.
I think one thing that we can both agree on, that this is no way near Spielberg's best film. No. If anybody comes out of that movie and says that, they're a crazy person.
Although,
to me.
if you, let's say, I'd say my idea, the idea that I had is like, let's say you've got a kid who's about 5 or 6, and you want to, or probably a bit older now, they not really watch that many films, and you want to, like, this summer, get them into, like, loads of films.
Mm.
This is probably a good one to start off with, say.
Yeah, well, again, yeah, well, yeah, because
I
think that's what that's what I was saying earlier. I think if the movie does that, that's great.
Yeah.
And if it gets people watching more movies or gets people playing older computer games, you know, I think, you know, there's an exploration of sort of modern history there that is something to look at.
Yeah.
But what I'm being a teacher who works with young people, 16 to 19-year-olds, so I guess they're not the younger 10, 11, 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
But I mean, just from my interactions with them, I kind of doubt that they would. I think they'd just watch Ready Player One and go, "Oh yeah, that was a really good movie."
Yeah.
And some of them would talk. You know, I think some of them would look at the references and geek out on it and on those things. And I suppose that's great if like 1 in 10 people do that. But I think the majority of people would just watch it and go, "Yeah, that's a great movie," and not be fussed about the things that I'm sort of like obsessing over. Which, but again, I suppose that gives it an extra mass appeal. But definitely, like, I suppose if it encourages people to go back and look at Kubrick and Spielberg, then, you know, I think wonderful. And I think, you know, it is a great movie, but Spielberg is, you know, for me, he's a bit of a master. And like you say, because of the Frankenstein aspect, you can't say that it's his best movie, because it's just not. Like, I think objectively, if you look at it, you know, I mean, I can probably think of 10 off the top of my head that would top this. You know, so, and I think you're right. That does come down to just creating something that's original, in the sense that it's not relying upon those sort of references. Especially
nowadays. I mean, like, we've got Stranger Things, we've got Deadpool, we've got Gods of the Galaxies. These are products which are heavily soaked in references. But at the core of each of these projects, you have a single line story which I've really connected with.
Yeah. Whereas this story was very generic. There's a bad guy. Yeah. We need to stop the bad guy. Or it's like a race to the finish, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I just felt like, maybe it's because I've seen stuff done so well recently when it comes to cultural references and have like a main core of a story which I'm connected with, that maybe this sticks out quite a lot. Because I don't understand why I don't enjoy it as much as everybody's raving about it. And I really want to enjoy it as much as everybody's raving about it, but I just can't connect with it.
And I think, yeah, that's okay. And yeah, I think my main critique would be that I wanted to learn a bit more about computer games, but maybe that's not what the game was. The film was about, and so I don't. So, but then that is making me want to read the book. So they'll probably get a book sale out of me. Yeah. So they're probably doing their job quite well there. So, sorry, James. I was just going to say. So, I mean, obviously you didn't like the movie as much as I did.
No.
So who would you recommend it for?
I'll recommend it for people who are between late 20s and 30s, because this is sort of like, because it has the because people who I know that are my age, they've fully enjoyed it. So if you like the look of it, like I say, if I paid money for it, I don't hate this movie. I think it is actually better than average, but I don't love it. So I would generally recommend it for people between late 20s to 30s, because there's so much stuff reference-wise for you. I'd also recommend it to the parents who want to introduce their kids to films, and if you're going to have like a fun film summer, then this might be a good one to start with.
Good starting point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because it's a film. It's a film about film. It's a film about games, and it's a film about music. There's a lot to.
It'll be interesting.
Which are like my three favourite things. It's hitting those levels for me.
Doesn't listen to music or doesn't watch films, it'll be interesting to see their perspective on how much this is a game reference film. Because I just saw little cameos every now and again, and watching the film, I just felt like it was like product advertisement more than cameos.
Yeah, I see. Well, I think for me, I think that is where I would come from, which is that I would recommend it for people who are a fan of music, games, films, and who love 80s, 90s films and music and computer games, and who love the kind of history of it all, who have that kind of those feelings as a younger person that in those formative years where something quite personal happens to you, like you go backwards on a level and you discover something and it's amazing, or you play GoldenEye in slapstick mode and you like crying with laughter with four of your mates. I think that is the kind of target audience for this story. And the film, like you say, I think my best recommendation beyond those people is also families who enjoy those things. Like you say, maybe want to introduce kids into those things, but maybe people who don't actually, because you as an adult, as a 30, 40-year-old, you got kids, you want to go kill some time. The kids can watch the movie and have no idea what's going on, and in terms of the references, and the adults can enjoy the references, and then it becomes this family experience where they bond over it. So I think it is a family movie in that sense, and it is doing what Tomb Raider didn't, which is appeal to both a younger and an older audience. But again, even like teenagers, like I think you would enjoy this. So I think it is. The only people that I wouldn't recommend it for was maybe people who were around before the 80s and didn't really enjoy 80s and 90s culture, and are sort of sat there thinking, why am I watching a film about all the things that I've been through, and the 60s and 70s were much better, or I suppose you've got the Kubrick thing in there, but I think some people might watch it and think, well, hang on, this is not that significant, but I think one thing that is good about it is that it does raise a light on, is that the right phrase? I don't know. Raise a light? That's a band. Yeah. There we go. We've coined a new phrase. I'm going to raise a light. It sounds like something a politician would say, isn't it? We need to raise a light on this issue. Yes. What we got? Are we gonna raise a flag? No, I want a light. I want a light to go up.
Symbols.
But shed some light. There we go. That's what.
Highlights,
that's what we're talking about. So I think it does shed some light on computer game history and how designers are really important to computer games, and how it is a piece of art rather than just something to consume. So that's another thing that you can get out of this movie, is that as a parent or an older person, you can understand culture around computer games and obsessions around in young people around them. So that's maybe so if you're somebody who wants to learn a bit more about the obsession, where that's sort of coming from. And I would say, just to sort of conclude, is for me, it comes from that place of inclusivity, which is what is the great thing about computer games, is that it is a lot more social than people think. And even though the title's called Ready Player One, it is about, having friends, in and outside of computer games. And I guess all that's changed is that when I was growing up, that experience was a bit more physical because you'd be in the same room playing GoldenEye, whereas now everything's online, so it's more digital than physical, and I think that's an interesting topic that the movie kind of explores as well. So I would recommend it for a lot of people, and I think there's a lot of layers to it.
Yeah, and I think I've sounded more grumpy about this film than I did about Tomb Raider. I did enjoy this film a lot more than Tomb Raider.
Was that because of the hype as well? Because I think that's somebody who I wouldn't recommend it for is somebody who has been given the hype that this is the best Spielberg film that they're ever going to watch. Yeah. They go in and go, well, that was not the best Spielberg film that I'm ever going to watch. Yeah. And they come out annoyed because somebody's missold them the film.
If you can't remember a Spielberg film, let's say you remember watching Spielberg films as a kid, and you've not gone back, you've not watched any old films since then, and you just watch one film and again, you may watch this film, and because you've not seen a Spielberg film in such a long time, you may go, wow, this is taking me back to my childhood, and I can kind of understand that aspect.
Right, okay. Do you think that's why some people may be labelling it as the best?
Possibly. Yeah. I think possibly. But I watch old films quite a lot, and so maybe I have too much knowledge of what it was like to be able to say this isn't what it was like. This isn't close to what it was like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, I suppose it's that childhood thing. Even I don't know. Because again, it's a personal thing, but I'd probably put Hook above this film.
Oh yeah.
So whereas some people would absolutely slate Hook, but I think I think that sort of thing maybe gets subjective. But if I met somebody in the street and they go, "Oh my God, Ready Player One is the best Spielberg film ever," I'd be just like, "Okay, just calm down. You're a crazy person. You're wrong, and you need to go and actually watch Spielberg films because you are far from the truth." But for me, that's why I wouldn't necessarily label this film as a Spielberg film. It's more like it's about Spielberg, or it's about movies in general. It's a film about films, and it's not a Spielberg film. And a bit like when Scorsese did that kid Hugo, the kids, again, that was a film about the love of film, and so for me, that's not necessarily a Scorsese film.
No,
because it's it's almost like he's paying the homage to people that have influenced him, or you're going back to explore Méliès. I hope that's the right way to pronounce it.
Yeah, George Méliès.
But I think it's a film about films. It's not a Spielberg film. If you've got that expectation that you're going to see the best Spielberg film ever, I'd just say save your ticket and go and watch an actual Spielberg film.
This might be one of the best family movies of this year.
Well, it's certainly better than Tomb Raider for me.
Yeah,
but we'll see. It's early days yet.
So
we are only in April, so we've got a bit of time yet.
Not the whole year, but just the year so far. I think, it does a good job.
Okay.
Cool.
Right, so should we move on to the section of the podcast where we discuss a TV show?
Yeah.
So this week we're taking a bit of a turn because our first two episodes we're looking at Netflix shows, and today we're going to look at an Amazon show. It's Amazon Studios, I think, isn't it?
So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's called I Love Dick. Before we start, James, I just want to start off by saying something about last week, which I didn't say at the start of this podcast. which I just want to be clear about, is that, last week we had a bit of a joke about me saying the title really fast because I didn't want students to get hold of it and use it against me.
Yeah.
I think I just want to be clear that that's not from a place that I'm afraid of being accused of being gay. It's more that I wouldn't want students to use that because it's offensive. And it's not offensive to me.
Yeah.
It's using a term in a derogatory way, and thinking that it's funny because it's implying that someone is gay and that is therefore bad. And that, for me, is why, that's where that caution was coming from. So I just wanted to get that clear.
It's in terms of like my view of that last week, I thought the word, and so I think because we work with editing, and like you can put that word in anything, then I think I don't know. I was just thinking about funny sort of like memes people can do, and funny sort of like videos and So,
but again, like that wouldn't bother me.
No.
I mean, obviously, I'd have to deal with it, but it wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
I think what would bother me more is if somebody was using that, it is a sort of way to be against like different sexualities.
Yeah.
And so, or sexual orientations. And I think, so that's, I just wanted to clear that up. That's okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
That's but I get what you're saying about, like somebody editing me saying dick over and over again.
Yeah.
But that, I think, like, I don't think that would be offensive necessarily.
No, just
because it's just using a swear word, and it's like if somebody says the F word, it's not like necessarily offensive to a group of people.
No.
And that's a key difference there, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so should we get started? So I Love Dick is a TV show. It's created by Jill Soloway, I think, who also did Transparent. And so we'll talk about that in a bit. So I Love Dick is a show that starts off about a couple where one is a filmmaker, and she's just made a film that she's trying to get released at a film festival, and then her partner has got I think it's a scholarship at to go to this ranch art place, which is a small town run by Dick, who is an artist. And then I guess the show sort of takes us from the place of when they arrive in that small town, and we see those characters, so the three main characters, the wife, the husband, and Dick. We see how they interact with each other and the other people involved in the art institution.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the best kind of summary of that show that we can do. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
But the sort of the main focus or the main theme of the show is about feminism, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, what's really interesting about the show, they're half-an-hour episodes, and so it feels like a slow-burning show, but actually, it's actually really good to get through it. Like half-an-hour episodes, and I think it's really, really interesting because it allows you to you're introduced to this new environment as these characters are introduced to this new environment. So it's sort of like a really interesting way of starting a show.
Yes, because they're from New York, aren't they? I think in the very first scene, you see them packing up to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I guess what this, I think Jill Soloway was trying to achieve this aspect of intersectional feminism on screen, which I think is a really interesting aspect to the show. I mean, the whole exploration of feminist themes throughout, I think, is really, really interesting. But this idea of intersectional feminism is certainly something that is quite new to me. That I'm still trying to get my head around. But I think the main premise of the idea is that it's about the fact that that not all feminist experiences are the same, and that there's everybody comes to feminism and their experiences are going to be slightly different to each other based on their sort of backgrounds or their upbringing or their sort of culture. And so I think that's a really interesting added dynamic to the show. And then there's so I think that's why there's an episode that's really, really important where you start to see the obsession of Dick from the different characters' points of view. Yeah. And so I think that episode it really does mark what they were trying to achieve with the show, in terms of intersectional feminism, which I think is a great episode because we sort of see flashbacks, we see why this character is so significant in the story. I mean, obviously, if you haven't seen it, he's going to be a big part of the show because the show's called I Love Dick. Yeah. And what I also like about the show is that there's a clear reason why the title, and what the connotations that sort of has, and what I think was really interesting about the show is it explores the female, explores the female interaction with masculinity and Dick, I guess, and so I think this show is really out there, but I really loved it. I thought it was a great series.
I thought it was interesting the way it takes its time to express an emotion. So an emotion can be done over like a 10-minute. So basically, to express an emotion of a character, rather than just having like a simple line or simple like have a simple line or a simple look, you have a whole scene that explains how she's feeling at this moment or how people are feeling at certain moments. And I just felt like the film sort of the TV series sort of like takes its time to express how people feel. And it's not quick, not like a wham bam thank you ma'am, just trying to get scene after scene after scene after scene. There's like whole scenes and whole episode just expressing one emotion. I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. It just takes its time because nothing's ever binary. There's no like one emotion. There's no like, oh, I'm just sad, or I'm just frustrated, or I'm just. I know, it just displays how people can feel emotions like very differently. And like in the same episode, you have two people feeling very similar, but expressing it in two different ways.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's really interesting. It just takes its time. It doesn't try to rush anything. Yeah. And it doesn't have looking back on it, it doesn't have a destination. Do you know how when you're watching a TV series, you sort of feel like it's leading to something? There's nothing obvious that it's leading to.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just going with the flow.
Yeah, there's normally a clear goal, isn't there?
Yeah.
Where I think, but this is more a program about obsession and desire and feminism and the female experience around desire and obsession. And I think that's a really interesting part that it explores about it, because quite often men, if they're obsessive, I guess sometimes they're portrayed as a bad guy. But if the main protagonist is obsessive, they're intense, or they're intensely in love with someone, and that's almost always seen as a good thing. Whereas in this show, it does explore the idea that when a woman is obsessed with a man, they're portrayed as crazy or seen as like
self-destructive.
Yeah, and it does explore that idea because it's almost like things happen to her because of how society perceives her desire as being obsessive and compulsive and like crazy.
Yeah.
And how society applies all of those terms to, someone if they're female and they are into someone. And I think there's so many like added dimensions to this show.
Yeah.
It gives it a lot of weight, I think.
Yeah. It's also interesting seeing her and her husband sort of relationship, because that sort of progresses the natural route. It like in terms of how dysfunctional their relationship is. I don't think it's disrupted by her obsession with Dick. I think it's sort of like whatever they're going through, they're going to go through anyway. I don't know. It just showed the cracks. It just highlighted
it's just,
what was wrong rather than creating an issue.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just
because Dick becomes a temporary solution.
Yeah.
Which is also like a comment. There's so many. The more that we talk about this show, I just think there's so many layers to it that and I just I think it's. I think it's I don't think it's got a second series, has it?
No.
Yeah, which I think that is a real shame because it's so good. But then I also think, well, actually, it's almost like, well, why not just leave it as one series? And it's like, for me, it's almost near perfect in its execution of what it wants to say and what it wants people to think about.
I don't know what else it can reveal about the characters in terms of like how they are, and it might just feel like a rehash if they
maybe. But I suppose it depends where they sort of take it, because I think if they focused more on I think is it Catherine Harm's character?
Yeah,
is that how you say it?
I'm not sure. Hahn.
Yeah. So Han,
yeah. Let's go with that.
Yeah. No, I think we might need some pronunciation. Well, I definitely need some pronunciation lessons.
Yeah. She's a great actress.
Yeah, she's in Transparent as well, and she's really good in that as well. She's amazing in this, and I think maybe if they followed her character into a second series, and I suppose they could follow all the characters actually, couldn't they? Because I
felt like they only really just barely touched on some characters. There's a character called Toby, and she makes an experimental film where she just lays out. She goes to like this construction site.
Yeah,
and I feel like
that's an interesting part of the intersexual feminism bit. But I'll talk about that.
I feel like this does so much. This TV show does so much, and I can only pick up what I can understand on a few parts. I don't understand all of it.
That's because you're a man, Jim.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean I didn't enjoy the series, and it doesn't mean that I didn't keep on watching, and I didn't want to see what because each episode is sort of like it's sort of like a different sort of feel, a different sort of. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like it's like the same format each time.
Yeah.
Each time it just feels different, and some people it might be someone else talking, maybe someone else elaborating. I know it's so even though I didn't pick up on all of it, I didn't really understand all of it, and I didn't really understand what the characters were trying to say to us. I'm still intrigued to find out where the characters were going and what they'll say next.
Yeah, so, I had to be honest, I had to get Rach to explain a lot to me. So, but I think that's important because I think you need to sort of hear the this program is a lot about the female voice, and for us to just sort of jump on that and say, oh well, this is what it's about, I think would be unfair.
Yeah.
But what was significant about that scene for you, the Toby character?
It's a scene which I didn't fully understand, and I suppose it's it's the way what I took from it is it's sort of like, I don't know what she expected to happen. I don't know what she wanted to happen. I don't know if she was expecting people to sort of use her or abuse her. I didn't know if she just wanted how people would react to her. I didn't know it was about her just expressing herself. I didn't know if it was a joyful film or a negative thing. I get annoyed when shows sort of spoon feed you and there's a whole conversation afterwards about what they want. I'm sort of glad this was left to my imagination.
It doesn't do that at all.
Because I watched it months ago and I'm still thinking about it. It's still in my mind.
And that's why it's quite powerful in that sense. And I think one of the important bits in that scene is when the other character the character who wants to be her girlfriend comes in and sort of says, well, you do actually realise that you are exploiting these people and you're exploiting their livelihood potentially. Yeah. And that, I guess, is where the intersectional aspect comes to it, because it's about acknowledging that where everyone is coming from to different situations. Yeah. And in that particular situation, that Toby character, the one who's on the floor naked, videoing, live streaming it to the world, she is very much not understanding the people around her. She's exploiting them for her own gain, which is again, a commentary about society, and it's important to consider those things as we move through life as sort of like decent human beings. And I think it's interesting how she requires somebody else to point that out to her. But like you say, what is good is that we don't necessarily get a review of that character doesn't necessarily have a big light bulb moment of, oh yeah, I understand, and they sort of carry on coming from the place that they're coming from, which is what they're trying to say. And I think, if anything, what this show really does do is it opens up discussions about these kind of topics, these hard-hitting sort of feminist topics, but also there's a bit of like, a tiny bit of masculinity in there as well. And I think what's fascinating is, is the idea that, around men being objectified and what that does to them and how they react to that.
Yeah, it does. Unless you see stuff from a different perspective, and and I watched it. I didn't have anyone. I didn't really discuss it with anybody. I sort of just absorbed the show. I didn't really discuss it with anybody. However, looking back on it now, actually, it might have been really interesting to watch that with somebody and actually discuss it. Like, yeah, especially if someone's female, and that'll be interesting to see both sides straight away.
Yeah, but I think because we did discuss this a little bit, and I think you said something that I thought was quite interesting about that links into the obsession and the desire, and when you finally get to that.
Yeah. Because Dick doesn't attempt to be the person that she hasn't had. She has everything. He offers her everything. He basically said, look, this is me, like everything, and it's just not enough.
Yeah, well, the fantasy becomes reality. Yeah, which is, I guess, like real life, isn't it? Because a lot of the time, with desire, you build these people up in your mind as to who you want them to be, what you think your relationship will be like with them, and then that invariably isn't the case because you've built it up in your mind. And I think that's interesting, because you were saying, like, in a lot of Hollywood films, a man builds up a fantasy of a woman, and what his fantasy is what he sort of maybe gets.
Yeah, at the end of the movie, right off in the sunset, and they're all happy, and it's like, it's no there's no consideration that there's actually
the
person is no consideration that the person is different.
Yeah.
But there's so many layers to it because we
Yeah.
are who we are, and then we are who we represent ourselves in every day, and then again we are who represent ourselves to like the third party people, like online, and how we rank stuff and how we
and linking it into Ready Player One.
yeah. But there's there's so many ways we mask ourselves nowadays, and really interesting to see a show which
that's why
unveils the mask.
You know, and I think it comments on age as well, which is quite interesting because he's obviously this really big famous artist, but he's still got like hemorrhoids or whatever. There's like a scene, and I think she finds some like cream of his, and you know, and it's all like
nothing's perfect.
You know, it is that idea that you know we're all human, and I think that's great about this show. I think that's what's great about this show is that you know it sort of breaks. Not only does it break down like barriers around feminism, but it also tries to break down just you know ideas of fantasies and realities and like who we all are in this sort of world where we might be connected at times, but then we might be very disconnected at other times. And I think in terms of a style of show, it did that really well, you know, with a combination of text on screen and freeze frames, and so sometimes it really breaks you out of the picture. And I think what I should have also have done is maybe looked into what it was trying to teach you around feminist filmmakers as well. I feel bad that I've not explored that because, you know, they have those... I'm talking about it because they have those clips where they show, like, art, feminist films, and they have clips from works of feminist art in terms of movies and other things. And, you know, and it's sort of teaching you about the idea of females as creators as well, and how they're sort of perceived and how their works are seen, and I think that's another added layer. But again, the technique of doing that, showing you those clips of art house, it breaks you away from the story. So I think it does do a good job of disconnecting you as a viewer and then reconnecting you with the characters, and breaking away from that either through freeze frames or text or narration. So I think in terms of its construction in that way, it's really good as well. And I like the fact that Andrea Arnold has directed quite a few of the episodes. So for anyone who doesn't know, she's also directed Fish Tank and American Honey. And I think she might have done a few episodes of Transparent as well. And she's just an amazing director. Like, so I almost want Fish Tank to be re-released so we can talk about that on the show. But if you haven't seen Fish Tank and you've seen I Love Dick, or you haven't seen any of these shows or films, I think anyone should go out and watch it. So moving on to the sort of recommendation aspect, obviously, like, I would recommend I Love Dick for anyone who is interested in feminism and representations of feminism on screen, because I think it does a lot for that. And I would recommend this for anyone who's interested in indie filmmaking or likes watching indie films, because it's like watching a long indie film, because you've got those half-hour episodes, and you know that you can watch an episode in quite a short space of time, or you can watch all of the episodes together, and it's like it sort of reads as one piece, but also broken up as well. So I think people who are interested in feminism represented on screen, and sorry, I'm just repeating myself, but I think, I think male and female audience can enjoy this because it can open up some discussions.
I wouldn't. So I don't like the word feminist, even though I believe I am a feminist and I believe in equality, and men and women should be seen as equal, and no one should be higher than the other. I feel like the word feminism has got possibly a bad representation, and so if you do hear us say feminism and you think like, oh, I'm not really sure, it's a half an hour episode, the first one. Just if you've got nothing to do and you just want to explore it. So even if you are a feminist or you do like to watch the feminist stuff, or if you stay away from that sort of stuff, it's worth a watching. It's worth seeing because your predetermined analysis of the word feminism and feminists. I don't know. There's so many interpretations.
Well, that's where the intersectional feminism comes in.
Yeah,
because for me, it
explores different ways.
Yeah, it explains that we're all, you might be female or male, but you've also got different experiences, and you're coming to, situations from, you're connected because gender is gender, but you've got, you've also got race, religion, culture, like so many different things mixed in with who you are as a person. This show isn't gonna, it's not gonna sugarcoat feminism. It's not gonna teach you about feminism, but what it is gonna do is create a better reality of feminism, which like you say is like, well, if you think negatively about it, maybe this show can help. Maybe it won't.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't recommend it for anyone who thinks feminism is a joke, or anyone who thinks that we shouldn't consider how male and females look at the world of desire and obsession and in connectivity in ourselves. So I think I wouldn't say, hey, everybody watch this show because you're going to love it, because I think if you're the kind of person who just wants to watch action films, or, and don't want to think about hard hitting sort of themes, it's maybe not for you.
It's a slow burn. All the emotions are in this film, but they're not obvious. So when something's a joke, it's not obvious that it's a joke. And
there's a lot of dark humour in there as well, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's sort of like it's. I was looking to watch the one episode, but I ended up watching the whole season. In one sitting.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, I think if you're interested in filmmaking, you should definitely watch it.
Yeah.
And I would love to recommend this to anyone and everyone, because I think it's such a great show. It's unbelievably good, but I think the problem is and this is like the most upsetting thing about I Love Dick, is that perhaps the world isn't ready for it.
Yeah.
And that like really depresses me, because I look at this and I think, well, this is amazing. Like, everybody should be watching this. Everybody should be talking about this. It should be like bigger than Stranger Things, or and you sort of think about all of those things, but unfortunately it isn't. I mean, I know Transparent is there, maybe a bit more,
but does that mold what people are used to, and
well,
I've not seen it myself.
I think what I suppose I Love Dick does this as well, actually, because actually, like, on reflection, both series they look at interesting aspects of gender, but they also they explore heterosexual relationships. They explore different things that like all people can sort of connect to. So like with I Love Dick, you know, even if you're not into the feminism aspect, I suppose you can still enjoy that from a point of view of watching, you know, a couple having a sort of breakdown in their relationship. So I think a lot of people can relate to that and those situations. I definitely think there's a lot that people will relate to in I Love Dick, and certainly in Transparent, there's a lot that the average audience can. I mean, I shouldn't use the word average, but the everyday, like, I think it's got maybe a bit more mass appeal, just because it's just less sort of. It's less in your face in a way that I Love Dick is a bit more.
Yeah, I Love Dick doesn't sugarcoat. It doesn't like, and it tells a raw story, and it doesn't really tell you more than that. Yeah. In terms of it's very consistent. There's some shows where like you have to get into like a couple of episodes in order to get into it. Oh yeah, I have to get into a couple of episodes, but with this one, it's very consistent. I think the first episode is just a lot like all the other episodes. So I think it doesn't go down. It doesn't go downhill. It doesn't go uphill.
Yeah,
I think it
just gets better and better until the final scene, which is I don't want to talk about because it's awesome. It's so well done.
I just shrug my shoulders. Like I can't remember, but that's not. I still remember really enjoying the show there.
Yeah, so. It's when I tell you. After the podcast, when I tell you, you will go, oh yeah, oh, and like because it's so good. Yeah, probably will. But I think definitely watch this program if you're interested in filmmaking, if you're interested in hard, you know, like different themes, interesting themes, themes that you that prompts you to think about that you maybe not thought about before. I wouldn't recommend this show if you're going to watch it and go, oh, feminism, that's a bit rubbish. Or, you know, those kind of, you know, like, oh, what do women know? Oh, God, if anybody sort of says that, I'm just, you know, I'm just like, I don't want to talk to you as a human anymore.
You just say, like, what does half the human race know? It's sort of like, you can't just like group up, like, I agree.
Yeah.
It's just get annoying.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say I have to stop talking to half the. No. But like, is that what like most men think? I really hope not.
I know, like men go, oh, like what women like can't stand the women, so like then you can't stand half the human race. And
oh yeah,
so, like,
I get you now. Yeah,
so like you can't just do that.
Yeah,
you can't just say that. It's just
yeah. So okay, so I think. I Love Dick is subjectively, I think it's awesome. So, you know, if you trust my point of view and James, I think we're agreed on this, aren't we?
Yeah, if you have Amazon and you're curious about it, you can. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I say, people have recommended like an hour long and an hour and a half long pilot shows and. I've watched it all and I thought like, oh, you know what, it's just not for me. Yeah. But the fact that it's just like half an hour and you know very quickly if it's your sort of show. Yeah. I think. Yeah. So give it a go. Yeah, like plunge into the unknown, I guess. Yeah. Like, you'll know within 10 minutes if it's not for you. And at least you've explored it. At least you've come into it. So. Okay, well, that's obviously if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it and you agree with what we're saying here, I hope that's good. If you are still of the point of view that feminist themes is not something to think about, then we'll probably lose you as a podcast listener. But that, I think that's okay. Yeah, like, it's like you know. Yeah, we'll try and look as. We won't miss possible. You, is what we're. Okay. With the evil bad guy laughter, we'll move on. So in terms of what we're doing, so we next week. So this is the section of the podcast where we have a little chat about what we're going to view this week, and this might be quite
A Quiet Chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hint, hint.
Yeah. There's a little small film which I did see. I'm going to see again.
Yes, whereas I haven't seen it yet, so we can't.
I'm not going to discuss it.
Can't talk about it yet.
It's a small, quiet movie called A Quiet Place, The Quiet Place, and it has Jim from The Office for the American Office. And
did he direct it as well?
Yeah, rewrote and directed it as well, and
Interesting.
Emily Blunt, and they also have 3 children. One of the children is deaf, and also the actor is deaf. It's not spoiled actually because that's like right from the start.
Right. Okay.
But it's interesting to know that going into it because it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
We're gonna be looking at that and the TV series.
I'm guessing sound is going to be a big part of this. So that's good because we haven't really talked about sound.
We'll probably be talking about
editing much, really. Actually,
we'll probably be talking about the cinema experience of The Quiet Place.
Yeah.
When you see it,
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. But yeah, my I don't really know much about it. I've seen the trailer.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I think I'm looking forward to watching it.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of horror, so I'm hoping it stays more on the thriller side. But I'm okay with horror if it's well done. The thing that I struggle with horror is just it's often a bit too binary for me.
I think this film, they need to, in order to market it, they need to put it into a category. And that's a category it's fallen into mostly. However, I do think it's a really interesting film.
Okay.
And
but maybe that's something that we can talk about next week is talk about genre and because we've touched on it a little bit, I think, but we haven't like had a detailed discussion about genre. No. It's because we always spend ages talking about narrative.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the narrative is the thing that everybody can connect to. Yeah. And then the next TV show.
The Divorce, did you say?
Yeah, I suggested Divorce.
Yeah. So I've not seen the second season. Just about to come out.
It's just come out.
It's just come out. Yeah. I've not seen any of it so far, so I'll be catching up with the first season and hopefully get through the second season by next week as well.
Yeah, you might catch me up and overtake me.
Yeah.
But Divorce is an interesting one because it's got Sarah Jessica Parker in it, and is also co-created by Sharon Horgan, who also did Catastrophe. So we can. I think we should maybe not talk too much about Catastrophe because I think there's a new series due soon, and I would love
Catastrophe?
What's Catastrophe, James? So Catastrophe is a Channel 4 sitcom, and it's amazing.
Yeah. The American Man and the British Woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so you have seen it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. That's okay.
Go.
I'm okay now, James. But yeah, so I think she wrote a script for Divorce a long time ago, and it got like pulled out of the locker, and so I think she has sort of had an input into it. So you're going to get a little bit of the Catastrophe in there.
I just googled her, and she's an actress which I fully admire. Cool, wicked.
So and it's got the guy from Sideways in it as well.
Yeah.
So Thomas Hayden Church. I feel like I'm trying to sell you this, but I'm going
to watch it, and the fact that she connected to it alone is something which has got me really interested.
Yeah, I think
because
she's
she's somebody who is really intelligent when you hear her in interviews, and anything I see her in.
Are you talking about Sharon Horgan?
Yeah, the creator.
Okay.
It says she's the creator of it.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever you see her in interviews and when we see her acting, I don't know. I think she's really, really interesting. So the fact she's connected to it.
She's really, really talented, and so I'm looking forward to talking about it because I think it's not that well known, so it would be interesting. But also, just the subject matter is about divorce, and that doesn't really give too much away based on the title. I'll be interested to see what you have to say.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So should we wrap it up
for
our difficult third episode where we try to get an audience still interested in something that they've seen or heard a few times before? No,
it's really good. I'm now looking forward to next week now.
That's going to sound odd for somebody who just tuned in. By the way, that's for a reference.
Tuned into a podcast like that?
Right at the end. Well, they might have skipped the beginning, gone straight to the I Love Dick section, and they don't know the reference.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough.
Is that okay? Yeah. So but we got through it, James.
Yeah. So
and I enjoyed it.
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Yeah. Bye.